All right, Shanita. So I'm so excited to have you
Yes, thank you for
on my
having me.
podcast. Yes. So the podcast is Leaving a Rich Legacy with Jessica Rich. And what that means to me is it's basically like a love letter to myself. It's different conversations that I wish I would have had when I was younger, whether that be with my parents, other relatives, friends, associates, teachers, educators, just anything that will help me to get to where I am today and things that I've learned along my own journey. And one of the pieces of the podcast that I'm focusing on is careers,
Mhm.
being that one, I built my company for 15 years and I
Okay.
also coach for leadership development and some
Mhm.
career aspects. So it's really, really important for me to be able to tap into people who have worked through different work environments and
Okay.
how they either succeeded through them or
Mhm.
they decided to step away. And I know that you and I over the years have been huge supporters. We're friends, right? We've known each other for
Absolutely.
15 years. But
Yes.
when it comes to careers, like we've
Mhm.
shared so much, we've prayed together,
Mhm.
we've, talked about interviews and working through
Yeah.
things. And I remember this last opportunity you had and what
Mhm.
you've done to get to that point. And I felt like you were no better person to have this conversation with. So thank you
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. That
So
sounds
the first
good.
thing I want to do is just tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever that looks like that you would like to share, but just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So again, thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited and to just to be a part of it and to just share. Like you said, we've been kind of conversing. So I'm happy to share my story. My name is of course Shanita Hariston. You know that. I am a wife and I've been married for 7 years and I have two kids. My daughter is 4 and I have a son who is 1. So that keeps me very busy. But let's see a little bit about my educational background. I went to UNF for both undergrad and grad, so I didn't go far. So I went there for undergrad and grad, and I had elementary education. My goal was, let me start off as a teacher, but my end dream job would have been to be at the district. And so I knew I didn't want to do like administration and school based. I knew that wasn't my thing really. But I just knew I wanted to work behind the scenes and really help education in that way. So I started as a teacher in 2008. And so I started in 2008. So I've been in education for about 14 years total. I started off as a teacher, taught for about 4.5 years. And then because I did an internship during my master's program, I did an internship for the district, Duval County Public Schools. And because of that internship, I was hired as a coordinator. And so that's pretty huge to come from a teacher straight to the district. I will say that internship definitely helped when I worked for free. So that was good. But I really enjoyed working at the district. I did charter school coordinator for about 3 years. So I did that for about 3 years. I loved it. Again, being behind the scenes, but I got bored. So after 3 years, I was like, okay, Shanita, with your background and because I got my master's in educational leadership, I was kind of saying, okay, I know I didn't want to do school based originally, but let me try it. The experience will definitely help decide if I want to stay school based or stay at the district level at the building. So after at my district position, I was there for 3 years and then I went ahead and ventured off to the school base. And that's when I was an assistant principal. So I was an assistant principal for 1 year. That's all it took for me to realize that that wasn't for me. Um, that's all it took. And I just kudos to those who are leading schools because it is truly the front lines. It just wasn't me. So I quickly was like, okay, back to the district I go. I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and so I know where I need to go back to be. So I went back to the district, and this time it was a totally different position with school improvement. Totally enjoyed it. Working with principals and helping them with grants and just policies and things like that. I was truly, truly loving my job, loving it. But I did that for 5 years. And again, I got to a spot to, I was bored. So when I got to that spot of I was bored, I'm not being challenged. I'm literally coming to work and I'm doing my work, but there's nothing new. So after being with the education for 14 years, I was like, okay, Shanita, let's see if you want to try something different. You're saying you're bored. You want challenges. Be careful what you ask for. You said you want challenges. You said you want something new. And if the opportunities aren't really opening for you at the district, then maybe you need to try something else. So I ended up, I had a friend actually who actually referred me to a position. It was a startup company. And this particular CEO had other companies. So he was vetted, he had success in those other businesses. So I was like, all right, he has credibility, he has validity. I could do this. Like, although it's a startup, he has other things in his pocket that are working. So I went on a limb and I said, I would love to. I wanted to get out of the district at the time, something new, nothing against the district, but I wanted to be challenged. So I took the position, and it was a vice president position. And I just couldn't believe that I was a vice president of a company. And I couldn't believe it. So I was so thankful, still am very thankful for that opportunity. I reported directly to the CEO. And it was great because we were building and we were creating. And so it was really good. It was something new. So in the first couple of months, I remember calling you being like, ooh, like, be careful what you ask for. Here come them challenges. So it's crazy because in any new job, any new career, you always have to give yourself that learning curve. And I remember you giving me that advice. Like, it's, you have to learn it. You have to learn the new job. You have to learn it. It's okay. And so a little bit of self-doubt started creeping in because it was something completely brand new to me. I knew education. I knew how to work with principals. I knew how to do grants and compliance and work with the state, but this was something brand new. And so it took me a month or two to really gain confidence in the fact that, you know what, Shanita, you can do this. Like, it's fine. You're a VP. Give yourself a month or two, but you can do this. So after that month or two, I started getting on, I started getting the hang of things and really getting into a routine. But the environment was starting to do some wear and tear on me. And so, I didn't have to deal with this particular leadership often, but when I did meet with him, I left feeling about this small. And, if I'm already having that self-doubt and I just built my confidence up, and yet after I leave a leadership team meeting with you, I'm either crying or upset or stressed or feeling like I'm incompetent. After each of one of those meetings each week, it just kept tearing and tearing and tearing me down and tearing me down and tearing me down. And I'm just like, at first I'm like, okay, is it you, Shanita? Like, can you do this? And then I was like, oh, I'm no dummy. I'm not a dummy. I'm not. So I know there are things that I can work on for sure. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. And I know there are things I can work on. But what you're not going to do is make me feel like I am stupid or that I don't deserve this job. So, and he may not have viewed it that way, but the way that it was coming off on my end and the way I was receiving it was, Shanita, nothing's right. Nothing's right. And so, and when I brought it to his attention a couple of times, and he's like, I'm not saying I'm not happy. You're doing a fantastic job. I'm like, but that's not what you're telling me. You may be telling me this, but your actions are not really aligning with it. And so I just remember on some of the work trips that I went on, and this particular leadership, and I say he because he was really the sole one that he was the deciding factor for me to go ahead and leave. So obviously I won't name the business. But with him, I remember going on trips and I was like, you know what, I'm leaving my family. Which is already a sacrifice for me, a mom of 2 little ones. And I'm doing everything that you're saying, but yet it's still not coming off as there's no gratitude. You're not thankful. And it's still coming off as if I'm doing something wrong, but yet I literally did everything you said to do. So I got to a point to where it was just each weekend, it's just a layer. All right, here it is, Shanita. I'm showing, God is like, I'm showing you something else. Okay, here it is. And then I got to that last meeting, I'll never forget it. And he just tear down, toxic, horrible. And I mean, he would do everything but cuss me out. Mm. And so it just was so unprofessional. I'm not used to the corporate world where that happens often. And I've talked to plenty of friends to where there are leaders and there are people who are literally like that. And it's supposed to be normal and supposed to be regular. I didn't come from that. I came from education where we build and we have positive reinforcement and we know how to talk to others when something isn't right. I'm not used to that in corporate. So this was brand new. I was like, okay, Shanita, can you take this? But that one last meeting, I just knew in my mind after I got off that phone that I'm not taking this anymore. I'm not taking it anymore. And so that last call after that meeting, that leadership meeting, I called my husband crying. And I said, I don't think I could do this. I just don't think I could do this. And he said, if you have any doubt in your mind, and he said, and he knows the backstory behind it, the stressing behind it. He said, Shanita, quit. He said, Shanita, quit the job. He said, there's literally no point of you holding on to that. So we didn't just come up with this decision of just quitting. Obviously, we had conversation. He sees me stressing. The number one priority that we had was the kids, to make sure that they are insured and to make sure that their health insurance is fine and our health insurance is fine. So it wasn't like I had a very bad day at work and I just quit. He knows that it was leading up to something, and he knew that my last straw was soon to come. And so I called him with that last straw and he said, quit. So I ended up quitting the job, and it literally, honestly, I don't even think I've even talked to many people about this, but at this point, it saved my life by quitting that job. Wow. I had entered a very dark place. And, a lot of people don't know, because Shanita's always happy. Shanita's always smiling. And there, no one really knows that. Of course, you don't post the negative stuff, you post the positive things. And I was just stressed. The kids were feeling it. My temperament with them was short. Arthur would ask me to do something, and I'm like, I literally have no room on my plate to do anything else. And it got to the point where it was literally taking a part of my health, and I would enter dark places. I would start thinking thoughts that you shouldn't think about yourself. And quitting this job literally saved my life. It did. I can honestly say that, because if I would have kept doing this and kept working, kept taking that beat down and kept taking that toxicity and just kept taking it, I don't think I may be here, but I may not be all here. It has been so life-changing to leave that job. And so I left the job, and Arthur, my husband, and I had already had some things in the works, because again, you start to see the layers, and we start talking about what's next, because that this is not going to be the end for you. So let's start planning and start having those discussions now. So after quitting, my husband and I are really me, but I'm starting a nonprofit, and it's called Strive Youth and Family Services. And with Strive Youth and Family Services, we're going to be helping our at-risk young men ages 12 to 17. And so with this nonprofit, we will have a foster home for these boys. Okay. And so with these boys, this is typically, foster already, it's hard to foster children and to place them already as is, but to have the ones that are at risk, they're usually never picked. And so these young men typically have some behavior issues, or they may have some drug-related issues or sex, human trafficking, anything like that. We want to take them in, have that atmosphere for them, build them a family home. So we've bought the property, we have the nonprofit started, we've gotten donations in from plenty of people. And so I am the CEO and founder of Strive Youth and Family Services. And my husband will be providing these services through his company. So that's the way our partnership will work. Is he has his company, which is North Florida Behavior Consultants, and then I have my company, which is Strive Youth and Family Services, and we'll connect through therapy in that way. But I tell you, the day that I quit, the relief and literally working for myself and working with and for my husband, I don't think I could do anything else. I just don't see it. And I would never say never. But I had a soror actually reach out to me, and she was like, "Hey, I got this job offer, it pays well. What do you think?" I said, "You know what? I just left a place to where I was reporting to somebody, and I, have to, just do all these other things that this person or this leader wanted me to do. And now I am the leader. And I'm reporting to myself. And my schedule is literally what I make it. And I just can't do it right now. I just can't do it right now." And she completely understood, because she left a very toxic relationship or workspace too. So she was like, "I get it." She said, "I get it." She said, you just left yours. I just wanted to offer it to you." And, I never would say close the door, never. I said, "But, keep me in mind, anything else that comes up. But I'm working for myself and I love it." And I love it. So right now with Strive Youth and Family Services, we're getting ready to apply with DCF. And so we're hoping to get our first group of young men probably the end of November, December, January at the latest.
Wow.
So we're just excited. We're excited.
That's moving very quickly too. So good.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's just, it's so crazy because I was only with that company for 5 months. And although it was depressing, I learned a lot. And I will say 14 years in education, working for a district to going to corporate, there are things that are very different. And I learned a lot in 14 years, but I learned a lot in 5 months as well. Okay. And in those 5 months, I learned things like how not to treat people, how to make sure when you get your team, Shanita, make sure that you don't talk down to them. Make sure you're not condescending. Make sure that you treat it like a family. Make sure you treat it as if people want to come to work, and they don't treat it as if something else they have to do, but that they get to do. So it was very helpful. It was definitely helpful in the business aspect. So working for a corporation, I will say it has definitely helped me to say streamline and to do a lot of things to, with the upcoming company that we have. So I learned a lot for sure.
Whew. So, I love that, like there was so many ups and downs with just only 5 months, but it felt so much longer than that. And you already in a short amount of time have discovered what you want to do and you're moving on. You didn't stay in that place. And I know when you sent me the text that you were done, I could feel it through the text message. Like you were relieved. It felt as if I could feel that you felt free. And that was just through text. And some people don't know how to walk away. And you said within 5 months, my health is more important. It's more important than a title, money, and trying to prove a point by staying there and taking that. And I will say, me being in corporate America 15 years, the one thing that I strive for, even with my leaders, when you give feedback, you always have more positive than negative. You look at, okay, can this constructive feedback wait until the next one-on-one? If it needs to be discussed now, the pros have to outweigh the cons. You have to have more positives, because if you give 7 positives and 7 negatives and 1 positive, nothing else is received. So it's powerful that you understood that, because now as you lead, right, in your new role, because you have people who report to you, now you can remember that. And that's going to be important when they interact with those boys too.
Absolutely.
It's not just, employees and adults. It's how we interact with those kids and based on what they've been through, how is that going to impact them while they're in your care? So that's huge. That's huge.
They have been beaten up either verbally or physically, and they are
correct.
going to need every bit. That's absolutely right. They're going to need every bit of strength and encouragement.
Absolutely. Whew. So I know that you said you and Arthur had been like talking about just how you were feeling. So he was well aware of it. But when you got off that phone with him that last time, what was it? Was it just, this is the last I'm going to cry? Like, what was that click for you that just was like, I'm done?
It was literally a leadership team meeting that the whole time we talked, it was what Shanita didn't do right.
In front of a group?
In front of another person.
Okay. Still.
Okay. So you're right. So it was me, another VP, and the CEO. And the other VP, no conversation, nothing about what she was doing. It was all what Shanita was doing wrong.
Wow.
And I think I felt like it was the last straw because it wasn't like I was coming up with the wrong things on my own. I was literally doing everything you told me to do. So I'm just like, how am I getting reprimanded for something you said to do? A, I'm not a mind reader. And B, like, if I was going against what you said to do, then that's one thing. But I'm doing what you said to do. So at this point, you should be looking in the mirror, not at Shanita.
Yeah. Or looking at the mirror or taking ownership. You have to have humility, and you have to be able to say, you know what, this strategy didn't work. Let's shift this way. And there was no ownership. It's not like no ownership in any of it.
And I just, after that I was just, it was already following a horrible weekend prior to that. And so this was like, Shanita, are you going to take this anymore? And, honestly, and I can say the professional thing to do would have been to give him 2 weeks, but I chose me instead of what would make him happy. Yeah. And I sent him an email of resignation, and I said, effective immediately. I'm not doing this anymore. So, and then came the phone calls and the email as well. Are you sure? Like, I didn't know you were this unhappy. And, I still am willing to pay you. I'm like, I'm not willing to put up with that. Like, a lot of times companies will dangle money in front of you for you to stay. And so that's what they'll do every time. They'll give you this new opportunity, or they'll give you this time you can work from home. I'll give you a raise. But I'm very self-aware of what I can and can't take. And like, even back when I took that AP job, it didn't take long. It took a year. I said 1 year is enough, and let's shift it on back, because I just knew that just wasn't for me. I'm the type A, I got to have schedule, I got to have meetings, and you can't be an assistant principal you have to go with the flow. In my mind, I can't take that. I got to know what's happening in a day. So I know me. I just know me.
Okay. So let's go back to like before. Okay, so your assistant principal, that didn't pan out long, right? So before this last job, like, what specifically were you looking for? Like, did you have an idea job that you were looking for specifically?
Honestly, so I knew I either wanted to move up in the district. So I was a supervisor when I left. I knew I either wanted to be director, and at least moving in that position. And it didn't have to be within my particular department. If I'm obviously bored, then maybe it's a different department, but a higher position, so that I can learn that way. But the opportunities, were not. I applied for one position that didn't happen for me, and I was like, you know what, that may be what I needed to go ahead and push me to do something new. And so I knew with educational leadership, the master's, you either do admin or you do corporate. So I was like, all right, I did admin, I did the school-based and district-based. Now I'm wondering, do I need to try corporate? And so that was really my shift of leaving the district for 14 years. Okay, well, let me try corporate. I like a lot of behind the scenes. I don't need to be in the front. Just let me work. I'm a worker bee, and let me just do that from the back. So it's there's just a lot that's different with corporate and education. There's a lot that's different. And in the 5 months, I can clearly see the difference, or at least one of them.
Well, every leader, I think all corporate environment, so corporate in general, I think there's so many politics, I think in any industry, and a good leader, there's a difference between a leader and a manager. And sometimes people know how to manage, but they don't know how to lead. And I think in every industry, you'll probably get some of that because folks have been so strategic and focused on just climbing the ladder that they haven't learned how to lead throughout the way. And that's probably some of what you experience. And it's everywhere. But you really, really made a good point about, he was like, I didn't realize you were this unhappy. Was there more money that was potentially coming? So when you got the job, did you get your desired salary that you wanted at the beginning?
So that's a great question. So the letter of intent that I signed he's a smart man. So he paid partially for my salary, and then another part I would have to work for it in a different aspect with his other company. But at the end of the day, it was supposed to give me my desired salary that we agreed upon. So as I'm calculating things and I'm working and I'm doing partial the startup company and partial the other company, things ain't adding up. Okay. Things are not adding up. And so it's so funny because at the beginning, there wasn't a lot to do with the startup, but then it slowly obviously started becoming more and more and more. So I had to do less and less of the other company's kind of to-do list. Anyway, long story short, salary on paper, it was desired. We agreed upon it. But towards the end, I had to start kind of fighting for, hey, remember when we agreed upon this? Like, let me shoot that letter of intent back to you to kind of remind you on what we agreed upon. And so I do feel like I had to kind of not fight, but I had to fight to make sure that my paycheck matched what we agreed upon. And honestly, in that fight, the stress and the money just weren't adding up. It just wasn't adding up. And so again, I got what I desired, got the desired. I had to kind of fight, go back and forth. But at the end of the day, my stress, it wasn't like I was being paid well over to be this stressed. Okay.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel like at any point you were forcing yourself to make it work? Like, I know I can do this. So you talked about self-doubt, but like, were you mentally talking to yourself like, I'm going to do this, you're going to make it work?
Yes, because that's such a good question. I definitely felt like that. Definitely probably around month number 3, because at that time I had gotten used to some things. But then I was like, Shanita, you're VP of a freaking company. Like, get it together. Like, God gave you this opportunity. You asked for it. He gave you everything that you asked for. And here you are being ungrateful. So I definitely had weeks upon where I talked to myself like, okay, get through this. Like, you can get through this. It's fine. Get through it. But then it went from, what do you have to prove to people, to you spend most of your time on this computer dealing with this company and you're not happy. So at that point, I was like, I really don't care what people think. I really don't care, because at this point, I can't spend literally most of my day being upset and stressed and mad for what? For what? So I just, again, I knew I had to leave the company. I had to leave. And honestly, it wasn't like, okay, Shanita, you have a fallback, you got a husband, you got this other stuff. I knew in my mind, with my education degree, I can go back in that classroom good, because they hunting for teachers. So, in my mind, that was my backup plan. My backup plan was, okay, Shanita, If Arthur says, we need to bring in some more money, that's fine. If that's the case, substitute. I go and be a teacher. I can go be an AP, even though I don't like it. If I need to bring in funds, I can bring in funds that way. Because I knew it wasn't going to last a long time. If I needed to do something short term, I had my plan and I knew where I can go in to get a paycheck. So I didn't blindly be like, I'm out. Like, I don't even care. Me and Arthur were looking into insurance. We looked into options. But because he saw that I wasn't happy, it wasn't like a surprise. I'm done.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good that you were able to communicate that to him as well. Yeah. So you've had this 14-year career, and you are now, you have your nonprofit, but you're also a stay-at-home mom. Because like you said, your schedule is flexible. Did you ever think you would be here?
Bro, listen, I'm like, I honestly, you already know, like, this is very different for me. And I'm honestly, like, of course the kids are a lot. Like, Zoe she's going to school, so that thank God takes care of that. And my mom still keeps, Zach every now and then whenever I can, if my schedule doesn't permit. I still do some part-time work to get some cash flow still coming in. But the time that I have to do things like cook and clean, and Arthur's like, "Ooh, show's been different around here." Like, happy wife, happy life is definitely true, because I'm able to pick up more things that I wasn't before. Like, when I was working the other job, you want dinner? What? Like, I can't. When I'm done, I can't. I have nothing left to give. So now it's just like, he's not complaining at all. He's not complaining at all. And the kids, the time that I have with the kids, it's not rushed. I'm not stressed. I'm just, enjoying it. I'm just enjoying it. Because I know there is going to be a time where it's going to be like the hustle and bustle, and, it's going to be a lot of things going on, but it'll be for myself and it won't be for somebody else. And
it's interesting to hear, like, so your capacity is just completely different now that you are a stay-at-home mom. I thought about that. I was, oh my gosh, did she ever imagine that she would be a stay-at-home mom? But I want to make sure I go back to being careful what we pray for, because I don't want to miss that opportunity. But I've interacted with women. A lot of the women that I'm around have been, on their own, single, newly married, or have been so career focused that they never imagined that. And although I'm not married and I've been with my company for 15 years, I still think it's important for women to at least be open to the opportunity, because when we're so against it, we basically, and we could drill ourselves and say, I'll never do that because I'm not going to give up my career. I'm not going to let the man control the money. But at least be open to it, because you never know what life is going to bring. And if you condition yourself to be so against it, then this could have been a struggle for you. That's right. And you wouldn't have been able to accept it so peacefully. That's good to hear. Now, just be careful what you pray for. Let's talk about this. Only because when I have friends who apply for jobs or ask for prayer, I don't pray that they get what they're asking for. I pray that God's will be done. I pray if that's the door that's supposed to be open, that He will open it for them. Because we sometimes pray for things that it's not meant for us. And you know what you pray for, and you get it, and you are miserable. So in your prayer, at any point, do you go back and say, did I not pray for the right things? Or do you regret the decision that you made? Just tell me what that looks like for you when you think back on it.
So thinking back on it, my prayer at the time was, God just got me. If I'm supposed to be at the district and still staying here, maybe something's going to happen. It's just not happening right now. If I'm supposed to stay put, then so be it. But if I have an opportunity that comes, I'm looking now, but if I have an opportunity that comes, if it's the right position, let me take it. And I even was specific, like, I want to be challenged and I want something new, or I could be creative. And I was like, check. But one thing I will say, like God makes no mistakes. When I tell you, I don't regret it, not one bit. As miserable as I was in the 5 months, I don't regret it all, because I needed to leave the district to venture out and do something new. So I don't regret that at all. B, working for this company, God, like, although this man meant it for evil, like God meant it for good, because although it was hard during this time, it has literally, I've never had so much drive and readiness to open up this home. And while it's a new business venture for me, it's helping at-risk young men. So it's like, oh no, God knew exactly what he was doing. Like, okay, you praying for this, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you, but that's just gonna be a little stepping stone before you get to this big old mountain I got for you over here. Like, that's, I mean, just go through that, you know, and you don't see that while you're in it.
Yeah.
While you're in it, it's just like, oh my gosh, what did I ask for? And I'm just like, there were times where, you know, my daily devotion, I'm like, dang, like I'm asking for forgiveness because it seems like I'm ungrateful for what I asked.
Ooh.
So I'm just like, Lord, please forgive me because I'm so thankful for this job. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm so thankful. But there's just certain things that are causing me to just, you know, to creep into depression, but zero regrets. Because if I just think about what could have been, like if I stayed in the position at the district, or if I stayed in the position, this Striving Youth and Family Services would not be here if I didn't go through any of those things. And so opening this door for these boys and giving them some consistency and some mama bear love, like, God knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. He always does, but it was just, again, sometimes we have that self-doubt about what's going on.
And you, like, I love that you said you didn't regret it, that you were still grateful through it. We forget to express gratitude, especially when it's something we ask for. But on a daily basis, even when we're going through it, you got to find where there's got to be something to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
And it even, you know, transitioning and going through potential depression for individuals, and I don't discredit anyone going through it because I haven't personally. So I want to be careful with how I say it, but it'll help you see the things that are going well, and things that you can be grateful for. So I'm happy that you said that, and that you took this as it's pushed you outside of your comfort zone. It helped you take risk, right? Because it was completely new, it was challenging, and you are going to experience all of those things successfully through your business.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
It was 5 months, but it was 5 months to prepare you for this moment.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. So that's good. So you are now a businesswoman. You are a CEO. You are the head and the face of your company working with Arthur.
Yeah.
There are other women who could be single or married women, mothers that may be in toxic work environments. Do you, or it just men and women in general, but I want to speak to mothers. Do you have any advice for them if they are questioning if they should leave that specific workplace?
Definitely. So I would say the first thing is to pray. So through this 5 months, you know, it's amazing what God does to lead you to pray and to read that Bible a little bit more. So if I had to offer some advice, it would be to pray and be in that Bible, because it was daily encouragement for sure. And when you pray, it's not just to pray to leave the situation, but it is just to pray for clarity and guidance. Sometimes you just don't know what to do. Do I stay? Do I go? And so praying for that clarity. And when you pray for clarity, sometimes he makes it very crystal clear. And so just being prepared for, Lord, whatever, you know, you show me, let me accept it and let me go with what you're saying. So I may be saying, I may be asking for clarity if the job shows it to me, but I maybe still be fighting against it. You know, I don't want that to happen. I want them to show me if I need to leave this job, show me so that I can go ahead and go.
Yeah.
Another bit of advice I would say is, you know, if you're feeling like you have a toxic workplace, it's not going to just happen overnight in one day. Things obviously, they start brewing up and they start collecting. And then you think about your last straw. But if things are really bad where you're working, then start developing a plan. So again, I didn't just quit because it was a horrible leadership meeting day and I just hadn't had enough. It was leading up to it. So because I knew I was getting to the point to where I didn't want to do this job anymore, I started thinking about, okay, source of income. What's going to be my replacement? What else are you going to do with the plan of, with the whole striving youth and family services, become the CEO? That stuff doesn't happen overnight. You need to do a 501c3. What courses do you need to take? Things like that to get me prepared. Because it didn't just flash overnight to where, oh, I got my own business. Like, you know what I mean? So just if you know it's a toxic place and you're like inching and got a foot out the door, then start having a plan. That's not to say that you have a job, you may have a job waiting for you, but if you don't, what are you going to do if you do have that gap? So that would just be another point of recommendation or advice, is to just plan as much as you possibly can. What else? Another bit of advice I would say is just to know your limits and really know what it is and what you like, what's the last straw for you, and what can you take that I can work with this, I can massage it here and there and I'll be okay, I can adjust. Or are there some things where this is just, it's driving me to the edge, I can't take it, if such and such happens, I have to leave. And that's just a way to set boundaries for yourself to, if they ask me to spend another weekend doing such and such, I can't do it. So just things like that, just setting boundaries and really knowing what is going to push you over the edge before you get off the cliff.
On boundaries. I didn't want to interrupt you, but yes, to the boundaries. So important. So I love to hear that. Now I'm gonna tell you, one of my last questions for you was going to be about your passion and purpose. Like, have you discovered it? And you already ahead. You 10 steps ahead. But is there anything else now that you're not tied to working for someone else that you feel like is your purpose, like you're called to do it, or you've started thinking about more things that you can do that you may be passionate about, or you feel like is your purpose?
So yes, I feel like even with the Strive Youth and Family Services, I still feel like there's a big education aspect to it. And so I feel like I'm not like leaving education altogether. That is a part of the drive to help the boys, but it's more of a wraparound service for them, and giving them, education and mental and physical and everything, their basic needs to be met. But I've also discovered too, my husband has this entrepreneur hat that before, when I was working for the district, I was like, you're doing too much. I just want to go to the job, come back and be done. But going through this 5 months, I was like, let's go. What you want to do next? You want to do YouTube? Come on, let's go. What you want to do? Zoe and Zak Rentals? Let's go. Like everything. I was like, because now I have a different mindset. Now he's thinking about things that I like to do, and let's shift it to things that you can get paid to do. So for example, yes, Strive Youth and Family Services has the education aspect to it. You're helping others. That's very important. But I also get to do things like party favors. I could do party favors for people, and then balloon garlands for people, and crafting, and recording and sharing some of the things I do with my family. And so that's a new passion that has definitely evolved because I have time to do it. So now that I have time to do it, and it's shifting into, crafting is more so of a hobby. So now it's shifting into having some money flow in as well. So, doing party favors for people, invitations, so we have different branches now. We have Zoe and Zak Rentals. Then we have the Hariston Hustle YouTube channel, just different aspects of things that we like to do, to just turning it into things we can earn money for potentially.
Yeah, that's it's funny when you have a different mindset of the time that you have available, but then also when you're not so focused on just one career avenue, just interacting with people, they do talk about they don't have the time. But then also once you start one venture, it's not like you get addicted, but you can see there's more to what you're just doing, especially if it's not your passion.
That's right.
A lot of people have jobs where it's not their passion. And, I helped you with that balloon garland for that baby shower. So I know that
Oh my goodness. Do you know, like, I just thought about that too. I'm like, do you remember how hard that was? I have grown so much. Thanks
Okay,
to you
well,
too.
you were the right person for the job because everything I put up came down. But your creativity, now you're in a space where you have capacity to do that,
Yeah.
not just time wise, but
Right.
mentally you have it. So I love to hear that you are embracing that, because I do think sometimes, and I just have to say women, because I know so many women who are so successful, and
Mhm.
it's like they want to do more, but they're like, I just don't have the time, or I don't think
Right.
it's right. And you
Definitely.
are embracing that, although you would never imagine a year ago you would be here. Like there's
Mhm.
this, it's in the I was gonna say the sky is the limit, but somebody else is like, no, it's not just the sky. But everything your heart desires, you can achieve.
That's it.
If that's
Because
what
I'm
you
not
want.
tied to that one place of business to where I have to do it for somebody else.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm just, but that also gives me the drive to just not, not sit around, get to work. Like now that you have the time, there's no excuses for these things not to be going in the up and up.
Right. All right. Last question. So
Yes.
you got your own business, you create your own schedule. What does your peace look like? Do you feel like
Oh
you're at a
my
place of
goodness.
peace? Tell us about that.
Ooh, I just, from the moment I literally quit, this is a piece that I just honestly like, it's so hard to even comprehend. Um, it's just, I still have I still set my little schedule. I do my daily devotion. I set my prayers. Um, it's just everything is not so intensified or rushed or stressed out. Like I know the timeline that we have to get the boys in the home, and you just kind of chip away at it, chip away at it. But the other job that I had, it was like everything is on fire all at once. And I felt like I just had like a squirt gun, like just squirting it. Like, but now I just feel like, okay, set the pace, get things done. What must you get done today? But if you don't, we can just, it's tomorrow is okay. It's the amount of peace that I have is literally helping my entire family. The kids, I'm not, obviously I still get on the kids, but I'm not getting on them as much. Their mommy's not stressed. Again, Arthur's like happy wife, happy life. I clearly see the difference. And so the peace is just, it's amazing. The peace is amazing. I'm so thankful for this peace. And again, I know things are going to pick up very soon, but I feel like during this kind of moment to where I'm building and getting to that, just sit and enjoy it. So I'm sitting and enjoying it at this point, but I'm still, obviously working. Um, but I'm enjoying this state of mind, honestly.
Good. That's so good to hear. I thank you for sharing this.
Yeah.
You said something that I think is so important. Outside looking in,
Mhm.
people would think like you have everything.
Mhm.
You're married, you have two beautiful children, you're successful, you're now a VP. And although everything looks a certain way on the outside, inside you are struggling at the
Absolutely.
point where you said like you were experiencing depression. And here is
Mhm.
a woman of God who's faithful, who is a loving mother, a wife, and you went through it. And it is okay to go through
That's
it.
right.
And you don't want to talk about with everyone, but
Mhm.
sometimes you may need someone to talk about it with, because you don't want to go through it alone. You had Arthur, and
Mhm.
you had others as well, but
Mhm.
you had someone to actually lean on. And I think that's the most important piece.
It
We can
is.
do everything that's right
Mhm.
and still go through the storm. Like
Absolutely.
we can still
Because
go through it.
everything is not peachy, everything is not perfect. Everybody has struggles. Everybody, no matter how much money you make, everybody has something that they're struggling with. And like again, I probably hit it very well, but it's the amount of stress. I'm telling you, the amount of stress was getting to a point to where it was just like it's just taking over. When it starts to take over your life like that, I tell myself like you only get one life to live. That's it. Like, what are you going to spend your time being stressed about this, or you going to do something else?
Enjoy
Like,
your
what?
life.
That's it. You only get one life to live.
Yay. Well, I'm so happy and excited for you. You know, you have I've seen you, you know, just be successful in so many different areas of your life, and I expect nothing less of this opportunity. I love to hear that Arthur created a space for you to flourish. That's one thing I love. I heard Teray Roberts talk about Sarah Jakes, and people question like, "Oh, she's already successful. What else can you do?" And he says, "No, what else I can." So, and I'm like, I could be quoting this wrong, but I specifically remember him saying, "I created an environment where she can flourish," and that was something that was important to him. And I love to hear that Arthur supported you.
Absolutely.
A place where you not only could step away and y'all had a game plan, but you are flourishing based on his support. So I love that for you. You know, I love you too, girl.
Yes,
and I'm
girl.
so excited for this
Listen,
next
you helped me a
chapter.
lot. I just appreciate you. Even you think those posts go unseen. Oh, I see it. And it's very encouraging.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, you did mention this, and I was going to ask you this, but you do have some ventures that are going on with the home, but also Zak. Is it ZZ Rentals or Zak and Zoe?
Zoe and Zak Rentals.
Zoe and Zak Rentals, and then your YouTube page, which I'm going to actually include in the description.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Yes.
So, but please share, like, if anybody
Absolutely.
wanted to follow you, where they can find you.
Yes, so on Instagram, it is actually we are ZZ Rentals, and ZZ Rentals is basically big giant games. If you're in the St. Augustine or Jacksonville, Florida area, it is just big giant games. But also I do customized party invitation, party favors. It's just something different about having things like your picture and your name on things. But our website is info@zz.rentals. Or you can follow us on Instagram, which is ZZ Rentals. And then Hariston Hustle, it's just a YouTube page that we can link, like Jessica said. And I'm just sharing some lifestyle. We want to get to the point to where Arthur and I share our hustle. So if somebody's thinking about starting a group home, we're providing some tips and some advice for that. Or if they're thinking about doing mental health counseling, providing tips in that hustle as well. So just sharing a lot of our family and hoping some people can help others.
Yay! I love it. So I'll definitely include that when I put the link for your YouTube, so they have that. But yes, girl, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to see what's next for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, girl.
All right.